This episode is sponsored by SmartVestor. Connect with an investing pro for free at RamseySolutions.com/invest. You're listening to Ramsey Everyday Millionaires, where we talk investing, retirement, building wealth, and outrageous generosity.
Let's go to Beth in Seattle, Washington. Beth, how can we help today?
Hi, I'm so excited to be talking with you. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. We're excited to talk to you. What is happening?
I'm wondering if you guys could help me think through a framework for deciding how much money I should put into my kids' 529 plans.
Okay.
I've been using some Ramsey tools, but I'm getting stuck, and I'm so excited to talk to both of you because, Jade, I know you have young kids, which is where I'm at, and Ken, I know you have a really good pulse on this collegiate environment.
Sure. Well,
so
tell us about the kiddos. Yeah, so start with tell us how old the kids are and what you've got saved or what you are thinking about saving.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have a 4-month-old, a 1.5-year-old, and a 3.5-year-old.
Okay.
And right now we are just putting in a couple $100 a month for each kid into their 529s.
Mm-hmm.
But my husband has like quarterly stocks that vest. And so in the future, we want to put something bigger. And I've heard Dave tell folks like, hey, if you have some money sitting around, you know, an initial investment of $50K can sometimes do the trick. But when I've used the Ramsey calculator online, it's telling me to put in more than that. And Ken, I've also heard you say that the landscape for college is probably going to significantly change by the time my kids age in. So I'm just a little bit stuck. I don't want to overfund, but I also want to be a good steward and plan well for the future.
Well, let me address my part really fast because mine is the fastest, and then Jade can walk you through this. I do say that, and I do agree that the landscape is going to look very different. Education, higher education as we know it, is going to be very, very different by the time your kiddos are there. However, the 529 has so much broad usage of it as it relates to any kind of training. I don't think education is disappearing. I just think it's going to look very different. So the 529 is still so I just wanted to clear that up in case you were wondering what I think about that. I think the 529 is a wonderful vehicle. As far as the amount goes, you're off to a pretty good start as young as they are. Jade, what do you think on that?
I think the first place to start is what your target is, because then you can kind of work backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there has to be a set of assumptions in order to figure out that target. So if the assumption is, okay, I'm assuming all of these 3 kids are going to go to some form of higher education, what do we want to spend for them? Like that's really what it is what are we willing to spend? What makes sense for us? Do we want each of them to have $90,000? Do we want each of them to have $120,000? And so if you and your husband can get together and say, what do we want? And then just run those numbers. Start with what the best, and then run those numbers back and you go, oh, maybe that's not possible. Okay, then what would be our next ideal? Okay, run those numbers. Okay, that could be possible. So start with that in mind and use an investment calculator in order to do that. I mean, I just threw some numbers in here. I'm like, okay, if you invested $300 per kid, right, for the next 18 years, you're going to have around $180,000, right? So start with that. And then what you can look at that whole equation and go, okay, now, do we want to be able to pay 100%, or do we want the kids to have some skin in the game? And if so, what do we think about that? So I think these are the questions that you ask, because if you don't have a clear target, then, what are you really shooting for? And you don't know if you've won or if it was successful or if you hit the goal or not, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And here's the deal. This is a bit of a moving target. So, you start looking at, okay, state schools. So where you all live, I have no idea what the state of Washington has. Are there breaks, taxpayer funded, tuition breaks, those kinds of things. You start looking at state schools, but just to give you an idea, just to give you a number, just to use Jade's formula here. I got a friend of mine, lives here in the Nashville area. His kid got a bunch of scholarships, great grades, going to Auburn, SEC school, Jade, going to Auburn, not far from here, okay? Yeah. It's going to be $45 a year.
That's a lot.
So you start adding that up. For simple math, let's just round it down to 40.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at $160,000. So at that rate, what you're already doing for the kids, you're going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So you start looking at that and you're going, but what's it going to be 18 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
You can't,
you don't know.
We just don't know. And so try to be as practical as you can. But I think just at the rate you're doing right now, I think you're going to be in really good shape, a big chunk of change for each kid, because you're just a bit under. Well, did you say we're doing $300 a month for each kid?
That was just me throwing that out.
200. So, but Jade ran some numbers at 300, and it's 180,000 per kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're not far off of that.
No.
And so it's a moving target.
Yeah.
But boy, it goes a long way.
It does. I think it does. And I do think, Ken, your kids are older than mine, but as they grow, you start to see who they're shaping into, and you can start making those adjustments.
You may have a kid that goes to a trade school. And by the way, the 529 can be used for that.
That's right.
You may have a kid who goes, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want this certificate. So again, this money can be liberally used and widely used. So does that help you in the sense of I want to make sure we answered your question, because there's no specific number we would tell you.
That it honestly is so helpful, and it's helpful to hear you guys say yep, it's a bit of a gamble. You're just doing your best with the information that you have, and you keep checking in. And change your plan accordingly. So,
and if you overfund it, I mean, remember, you get the money back from scholarships. You can pull that back out. If they end up getting full rides, you can pull that back out of the 529.
Right. That's right.
So it's not lost forever.
Yeah.
And if you get down to it, we had a caller call in the other week, Ken, and they had massively overfunded the 529s. It was 80,000 left. And it was listen, at that point, we just told them, hey, if you want to pull it out and take the 10% hit.
Yeah. No one's griping about having extra money. You had to pay taxes on.
Yeah. So
there really is no risk at all, Beth. No risk.
Okay. Hey, thank you both so much for putting my mind at ease.
Good.
I appreciate it.
You guys are doing great, actually, to get ahead of it that early.
Yeah. Smart.
It's fantastic stuff. And that, again, back to the compound interest calculator.
Love it. It's my friend.
You start putting in that was what you ran. I want everybody to hear this.
Yeah.
You ran $300 a month times 3 kids. So it was a $900 investment from the time they're babies.
Yeah.
She only has one toddler.
Yeah.
I think a 3-year-old.
Yeah. She had the 4-month-old, 1.5, 3.5.
Okay. So and you're looking at $180,000 for each kid.
That's great.
That goes a long way.
Yeah.
Towards really expensive schooling. Schools are insanely expensive.
Yes.
Although I do think something will have to give. And I really believe I can't even begin to get a crystal ball out for 18 years from now on higher education, but something has to give. The student loan to the trillions of dollars, the American people, 46% of American parents say they wish their kids would go to trade school. If colleges and universities were running for president, they wouldn't probably get elected. You know what I mean?
Facts.
They're suffering a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that only gets worse unless something happens with tuition.
Something's got to happen with tuition. Yes.
You know
but
what
in the meantime, all we can do is save up and do our best, and you can only afford what you can afford. And at the end of the day, that's the guiding light.
Thanks for listening to Ramsey Everyday Millionaires. Need help with your investments? Connect with a SmartVestor Pro at ramseysolutions.com/invest or click the link in the show notes. Ramsey Solutions is a paid non-client promoter of participating pros. Learn more at ramseysolutions.com/smartvestor.